Hey, paisans, the time has come. On the air since 2009, the independently produced, non-FCC compliant champ of video game talk podcasting. Here comes Tiger Claw Radio. Here's your host, Critical Failure.
Welcome everybody to Tiger Claw Radio. This is your host, Critical Failure. Thank you for spending some time checking us out, listening to some chip tunes, talking some video games. This week is the Metroid Special. Yes, that's right. We're kind of knocking off our good friends over at the Cartridge Club. How they pick out a game every month and they kind of play it together. Well, I thought we'd do that here on TCR. So this past month, we'd been playing Metroid, which I hadn't really ever given a fair shake, and I really did. And this is going to be the last show of May, so this will be sort of our Metroid roundup. On top of that, we're going to scour the internet for some chiptunes. We're going to talk just a little bit about the chiptune compilation that is coming out here in, I think, about 1 week. I set the date of the release date's going to be the 1st of next month, which I think is about a week away, at least from the time this is being recorded. Yeah, so it should be a great show. Got some good stuff lined up. With that, let's listen to some chiptunes. Put your feet up. Talk some video games. You're listening to Tiger Claw Radio. Stick with us. That's Young Go Tanks. That's a Spring Tracks 10 submission over on Battle of the Bits. They're still accepting submissions there for another 4 days, at least from the time this is being recorded. I think they'll probably be closed by Monday, but yeah, quality chiptunes still coming out over there. These days, again, we've talked about this before, but it's best to check out, pop open a competition like this while it's still running, and then just check out the raw submissions and then come to your own conclusions. I spent years waiting for their albums to come out and I just wanted to hear the winners, but not so much these days. I like the more raw, chippy sound. I think Young Go Tanks does that sound very, very well. And because this is a submission, I have a link that goes directly to it. You can get yourself a copy of the MP3. And if you're really feeling froggy, leave this guy a comment on Battle of the Bits. Let him know that you heard him on TCR. All right. So, this week is indeed the Metroid Special. But before we get into that, here's a quick bit that I recorded about the new one from Capcom. Stick with us. Let's see. I took a look at Capcom's Arcade Stadium which is out on Steam. And to be honest, I don't know what other platforms. Give me a second, I'll find out. This looks like the kind of thing that would be multi-platform. Yeah, here we go. Available for Nintendo Switch, PS4, Xbox One, Steam. Yeah, so this made the rounds. I was skeptical at first because it looks like we have something very much akin to the Sega Genesis collection. But when I actually opened it up and took a look, yeah, okay, it is that, but that's a good thing. We have arcade, essentially MAME ROMs that are now legally obtainable. You can download the program itself for free, and it comes with a free copy of 1943 installed. But what I like is that the games, if you buy them individually, they're not very expensive because they want $1.99 if you buy a single game, and then they're sold in 3 packs together, and they're like $15 for a pack. Right now, I think they might be discounted. But anyway, yeah. So the program itself has got a lot of filter options. It's got speed controls, fast forward, rewind. We're clearly talking about MAME games because you got to hit that right control button to insert a coin. Some of the games are duplicated on other Capcom bundles. Like I have the Capcom Beat 'em Up bundle, which was one of the very few games on Steam that I 100%ed a couple of years ago. Or last year, maybe? It can't be that long ago. I see a lot of those games available here as well. Battle Circuit was one. I can't remember the name of the other one, but the one with the mechs is here as well. The Street Fighter 2 and Street Fighter 2 Turbo or whatever are here. And I believe that makes this the cheapest way to play the Street Fighter arcade game legally without, short of actually going and getting a MAME ROM. You can grab Capcom Arcade Stadium and $1.99 or whatever it is on Steam, get yourself a copy. Filter options are kind of fun, but I would say that when I sat down to play, hang on a second. Looks like I'm having some network issues. Blew a fuse. The filter options are fun and kind of cool, but I would say that the default displays are kind of doo-doo. Changing the settings is pretty easy. They did a good job with their user interface in this one, but it's set up by default so that every game has its own arcade machine, and then the menu is a left and right a group of arcade machines you can look at, and then you can change the way that the machines look a little bit. It's like a very, very light version of like the way I'm describing it kind of sounds like an arcade kind of thing. Like what's that game I was really into a bunch of years ago? Oh geez, what was it called? This is gonna bother me. Anarchy Arcade. That's it. A few options, not quite that many. You're not free walking around like you are in Anarchy Arcade. It's still just a list of machines, and you've got some filter options. But I like to get rid of the 3D stuff. When I sat down to play the game, the first thing I did was, all right, I don't want to look at a 3D view of a machine that's displaying the game. Once I pick the game, I just want to go straight to that, and that should encompass the screen. Which it will do, but you have to set it to do that. I don't know. So it looks good. It has good options and stuff. In terms of the game selection, I gotta be honest, a lot of these, I wasn't interested in getting one of the packs right out of the gate because a lot of these I have already in other places. So in my opinion, I might go with like 1 or 2 just singular titles. But in my opinion, that's a winner. Oh, that's my internet is down, so I can't bring all this stuff. Give me a second here. There we go. We're back up and running. We got some prices. So some information on the packs. It looks like they are discounted. You're looking at it, packs 1, 2, and 3. Individually, they're $15.10. You could get everything for $40. What does a bundle cost when there's no discount though? That's what I want to find out. I'm not seeing that readily available, which is always concerning to me. Hang on one second. Nah, it doesn't say, and I don't feel like doing the math because I'm too lazy and dumb. Yeah, so in terms of the actual games, let's see if I can get a nice list here. Yeah, there we go. So without reading this whole list, there is, I think, a place for a product like this, because what we have is a legal way to buy arcade ROMs, and if we had this, in 1999, then in my opinion, I don't think the emulation scene would have taken off quite as much as it did. Maybe it would have. I'm not saying ROMs wouldn't be around, but I am saying, like, in 1999, when we were exchanging ROMs via floppy disk and connecting with dial-up to download ROMs and scouring really small websites hosted on GeoCities or whatever, to pluck out of small ROM collections, that sort of thing. Back in those days, people would commonly say, hey man, there's no other way to get these things. So I do like seeing a product like this surfacing, even though a guy like me with a huge game collection, it's like, okay, most of this stuff I have already. Because of that, I think a product like this still has a place. And when you look at the interface, there's a number of like microtransactions and that sort of thing. Like you can buy for like $2 or $1.50 a different music track that plays over the arcade or things like that. Some of those things. But a lot of people view that stuff very negatively, but they have found a way to fairly monetize this stuff without putting any of that on the game. Like none of those tricks. None of those microtransactions are like, oh, buy extra credits for a game or something like that. No, it's just, it's all cosmetic stuff. So they've found a way to making these old games available also profitable for the company. So I have no problem with that. Right, but actual games. What here is actually worth playing? Here we go. I'm doing the worst ever. The shmups, that's what I like in particular. There's a few old shmups. Like it comes with 1943, that's free. But 1942 was actually the one that caught my eye before I knew that what it came with. I was going to drop $2 on that. Apart from that, Legendary Wings looks good. It's not a shmup, but Strider. I kind of want to play Strider. Captain Commando is a great game if you don't have the beat 'em up bundle. I really enjoyed Captain Commando, but that's gonna be a pass for me. Again, beat 'em up bundle, I have it already. 19XX, more shmups. I wish they just rounded up all the shmups, to be perfectly honest. Giga Wing, is that a shmup? Yeah, it is. Yeah, I wish they just rounded all these shmups up. 1944, the Loop Master, really good shmups. So my question is this everything Vulgus? Is that a shmup? It sure is. Another really old one. Pirate Ship Higemaru. So there's a few Japanese games in here. I don't know if they're games that I just don't know about because I'm not the man when it comes to the games. But yeah, this is a pretty good collection. Mega Twins. Yeah, there's some games in here that I don't have. I don't know. Yeah, I have to go through and see if how the bundles are divided up. If there's any bundles that would fit for me, because that is the big issue. Is that they're like they probably should have done this like a couple years ago, I think is what I'm getting at. I'm a little bit less bitter in this case than I am with like the NES Mini. Like when the NES Mini came out, I was like, come on, man. We needed this 10 years ago, and you guys could have done it. This is like, they're laying in groundwork. This could grow. They could release new packs of games for this, so I'm liking it more than the NES Mini. NES Mini was just like a hardware thing. This is kind of cool. I haven't spent any money on it yet. I'm probably not going to this week, but I am going to play some 1943. They have some pretty good, what's the word? I usually refer to as tape mode, sideways monitor mode, where you take one of these old shmups, like 1942 is a great example. The free one, 1943. You can set it so that the monitor is sideways. so that it takes the full monitor. Now my TV that's in the center of my office is on a swivel, so I can actually just, rotate that thing freehand sideways and play a game on it. Which actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I had this idea when I first set up the office. That would be really sweet. Rotate it sideways, get my arcade stick, put it in front there, play a pretty sweet arcade experience type thing. Don't know if I'd go through all that for 1943, but I don't know. For a really high-end shmup, I would do something like that. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't... Not much else I can say about this thing. It's just cool. It's cool to see something new from Capcom in regards to these old games. I feel like, even though I don't have any illusions in terms of what this is, I feel like some of these old games are getting acknowledged, which is awesome. Back again in the studio, we got another one from the Spring Tracks 10 entries. This is Area X from Ethlisle? Oh my goodness. Stick with us. You're listening to TCR. If you want to get a copy of that MP3, just head over to the notes and check it out. We got a direct note to the listing over on Battle of the Bits where you can find it. Get yourself a copy. We need more of that classic NES sound in chiptunes. I gotta say, I think there was a time when there was more of it, and now it seems like people are trying to get away from it. Core chiptunes, that's where I'm at right now. That's what I like the most for the time being. All right, but chiptunes aside, we're going to talk about Metroid. But first, let's just take a minute to thank the sponsors. This is a Patreon-sponsored program. And in order to say thanks to the sponsors, I offer a couple of things. Early access to the show typically comes out on Wednesday for the sponsors and on Monday globally. I also do a series every Monday called Monday Night Morrowind. Just hanging out, playing some Morrowind, and a little of this, a little of that, sometimes other stuff on top of that. But finally, an old tradition here on TCR is to read the names of the supporters off on the air as sort of a hall of distinguished gentlemen, as I like to call it. And they are Hemrock, Tecmo Balls, Darabka, and Eric Kentroller. Thank you all so much. I hope you're enjoying the party. Metroid. Okay, so I got to sit down with Metroid a couple of times in the past couple of weeks, and I wrote down a couple of notes. To sum it all up, my opinion was this. It's a game that does atmosphere very, very well, but has a lot of serious problems with the mechanics. And I can imagine that's probably why when most people look back fondly on the old Metroid games, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like most people say it hit its peak on Super Nintendo. Is that right? Am I wrong about that? Because this is what I experienced. I first started trying to play through the game without using a map, without creating a map. I knew it was something that I needed, but I just wanted to see how it would go. And it was kind of waffly. The atmosphere was good. I kind of understood what was going on, but it was just too complex. Finally, I sat down and started drawing a map, which is something I knew from the beginning that I had to do. And that's when everything became fun. Up until that point, I was not having real fun. It was okay, but Metroid strikes me at its core as an exploration game, not as like a platforming shooting game. Yes, it has platforming and shooting at the core of its mechanics, but when you sit down to play Metroid, the fun that you're going to have, is not from the platforming and shooting, it's from the exploring. Because once I had a paper map, it was great. First of all, anytime you're drawing a paper map for a video game, it's one of the cornerstones of inconvenient gaming. However, when you actually do it, it's great, because then what you have is a real life, what they call a feelie back in the old NES, the old DOS games, even before NES. Right? They used to have adventure games where they would come with in a big box with like a printout of a newspaper, and you'd have to use the newspaper to solve puzzles or something like that. Real life objects that interface with the game, and they go a long way in terms of making you feel like you're there, getting you fully immersed. It's a immersion device, so to speak. So yeah, got a lot better once I started making a crude map. Let's talk about the platforming itself, because this is a part I had problems with. Why do you start... And I realize that I'm getting ready to nitpick a beloved game here, and I'm also getting ready to nitpick a very, very old game, and a lot of this stuff was fixed later. But why do you start hurt? I couldn't figure that out. It's like you start with like 30% health. Now you do find like health tanks later in the game, and you get a greater capacity for health and stuff. It's not something that stays throughout the course of the game, but you start hurt. And I really don't like, especially in platformers, having to grind for items. It's kind of boring. And it seems like something, now maybe it's because I'm not great at it, but it seems like something I had to do a lot in Metroid. Also, it really bothered me that the default blaster that you have in Metroid, the vast majority of the enemies are designed so that if you're walking horizontally towards an enemy, you are going to shoot over top of that enemy. And guess what? You can't crouch and shoot. Yeah, you got the morph ball, but you can't shoot like that. At least not out of the gate. I know that there's the, what do you call it? Like the bomb that you leave later on, but haven't quite got that far. Yeah, so a lot of frustration around the platforming, not the platforming, the shooting mechanics. The platforming was actually fine. You can jump super, super high in Metroid, which makes the jumping a lot of fun, actually. But the shooting, at least at the beginning of the game, is difficult. It gets better once you find the missile, which is not very far into the game. But that was something I noticed. Also, the highlight of the game, the exploration, there aren't enough tools in the original Metroid to support that kind of exploration, in my opinion. Great example. Game people hate hearing me talk about, but we're going to go there anyway. The original Wizardry. I know. Stick with me. In the original Wizardry, it was designed for you to keep a paper map. In fact, it was such to the point where out of the box, it had a partially filled out map of the first floor, and you'd had coordinates and you'd fill it out. And in-game, there was a spell you could use that would give your position on the map. In the oldest versions of Wizardry, that spell would just give you a set of coordinates, and you'd have to look at your real-life map that you were keeping and get your position. Now, if you go back and play a later port of that game, like, let's say, the Japan-only one on Super Nintendo or something, where they, remade it for later systems, because it was originally, Apple II, that sort of thing. The later versions, when you'd use that same spell, instead of coordinates, you would get a picture of a map, so you could see on the screen, oh, that's where I am. And that's, I think, the piece that the original Metroid was missing. Excuse me, not at all a deal breaker, but it really, really made a difference. Another game I can think of that's like this is the original Phantasy Star. It's the same deal as Wizardry, as first-person dungeon crawling, in the dungeons anyway, and you had to make a map. Otherwise, guess what? You were getting lost. That's what was going to happen. Old school text adventures were like that too. Like if you played Zork or something, you had to make a map of what squares went to which places. But actually playing Metroid that way made it feel like an older game than I had anticipated. Because it's such a modern beloved game. Like people still talk about how much they like Metroid. That aspect of it made it feel older than NES rather than newer. I thought it was going to feel a little bit more modern, but yeah, it was very weird in that way. Graphics were awesome. Again, the atmosphere is something Metroid does very, very, very well. But there's something that I noticed. I don't know if it's just me, but the character model for Samus in the NES game, at least in game when she has her helmet on and everything, she looks kind of like a xenomorph in my opinion. Like Alien, like she's got the elongated head, and it's a particular color. Now I know that if you look at the artwork and like the portions where she's like facing frontward, like at the very beginning and at the end, it's a round head. It's not an elongated head, but the way the sprite is drawn, that's what it looks like. So is what it is. Good game. I liked it enough that I'm going to continue playing it because I want to get as far as I want to at least get like the bomb that you get when you're in a morph ball, because I feel like that's not an end game thing. Now I don't know this for sure because I haven't looked up. I've stayed away from like reading material related to the game, but I feel like that's like a middle of the game kind of thing. Correct me if I'm wrong, those of you who've beaten it. But yeah, that's Metroid. It was I'm glad I experienced it. It was a very positive experience. To me, it remains a game that I dig, but not one that has shaped like my opinion of video games for some. But yeah, I'm super glad that I got to share that little piece of video game history, and I hope you pulled it out and gave it a shot as well. As for June, let's see here. I posted a poll on YouTube about what the next game of the month would be for June. And so far, it's a tie between the original Final Fantasy and Super Mario Bros. 2 Japan. So like the Lost Levels version of Super Mario Bros. Now, if that were the pick, you could go whatever route you'd want to go. If you'd want to dig up the ROM for the old Disk System game and actually play the original Super Mario Bros. 2, or if you wanted to play All Stars and play the Lost Levels as we all remember it here in the West, either would be fine. But since it's a tie, I'm going to hang on a bit, at least until Memorial Day, let people vote on the Discord server, and maybe make a little video about it. I don't know. But it's going to be one of those two. Also, the Cartridge Club is doing Cuphead for June. I haven't done the Cartridge Club in a while because when they pick out games, I'm usually only able to play like a quarter of the games they talk about. But Cuphead is one I have on Steam, and it's been in my backlog for a while, so it's perfect. So this coming month, either Final Fantasy or Super Mario Bros. 2 for us, and if you want to join in with the Cartridge Club, they're going to play Cuphead. And I'll be playing that as well, so I'll keep you up to date on my progress. We are, 29 minutes in? I've actually got one more Vancast, though I can't remember what it was about. Stick with me, boys and girls. Strap in, we're going into the unknown. You're listening to Tiger Claw Radio. Let's go there now. Welcome, friends, to Tiger Claw Radio. Thank you for joining me on the Vancast. It is 9:49 p.m., and it is 72 degrees outside. Feels good. I am on my way to Crackdonald's to acquire the ice creams. The ice creams. Because why not? I spent the last hour or so hanging out with my wife, watching shows on my Android TV box. She's a big fan of the TV show Portlandia, which has been on Netflix forever and a day, and it's finally getting removed from Netflix. So we started acquiring DVDs and then ripping them onto this Android TV box, which has exposed us to like special features. Like, do you remember how DVDs have special features? Yeah, we kind of forgot about that. So she's getting to see some of the special features, deleted scenes and stuff, for a show that she enjoys for the first time. Yeah, it's a good time. So that has been fun. In terms of games, not much this evening, but I gotta say, I have had a hankering for some elevator action. The OG Game Boy, holds a special place in my heart, and it's definitely one of the first things I gravitate to when I play the emulator machines. Just because I think it's appropriate to play like games that were literally designed to be pick up and play. I don't know what draws me to the Game Boy. I don't know. I can't give you a logical reason that's like, these are better suited for, core design theory is what makes us better. No, there's nothing like that. It's actually the exact opposite. It is the undefined thing that it's just the thing I like, that I want to do more of, thing that I like. And sometimes that's enough. And of course, when it comes to elevator action, as far as I'm concerned, the Game Boy version is a definitive version, which I know is a bold statement, because that's a game that's been on a lot of different systems, and everyone's different, from the Atari 2600 all the way up to the Sega Saturn and beyond. Game Boy's the best. Great cart, all the way. Except the only problem with that is they have this mechanic where you can acquire a new weapon and you don't know what that weapon's going to be until after you've picked it up. Like in Contra, when you see those little letter pickups and you can tell what gun you're going to get by picking up the letter. Well, in elevator action, you just have the door with the question mark. And most times it's an upgrade. Like, you can go from your pistol to a shotgun, so you have a little bit of a wider spread, right? So they can't duck under your bullets. Or maybe you go to a machine gun so that you can just hold it down and it's fully automatic. But then there's the grenades, which is one of the weapons you can pick up. And the way this it's got to be designed on purpose so that the grenades are the terrible weapon. Because it's just like, there has to be some element of chance. When you go in that door and you're coming out with another weapon, it could be one of the good weapons, or you could get the grenades and just instantly be screwed until you get game over. You think of like in Castlevania, how they had the holy water. And the holy water in Castlevania wasn't great, but it was a situational weapon. There were places that were specifically designed where if you used the holy water, you would be able to find the cracks in the floor, or maybe there are a couple of places with like specific monsters where if you had the holy water in just the right spot, you could get them. No, nothing like that in elevator action. You get the hand grenades and you are screwed. And that is an item that there's no way that they made that item thinking, what would be cool? We get hand grenades. It does the same thing as a pistol does, but instead of being able to shoot across the screen, now you only get to shoot about 2 feet in front of you. Because that's the way hand grenades work in real life. All right, boys. We at McDonald's, time to order my drugs. Yes, and the order has been made. Tonight we're gonna go with the Oreo McFlurry. Bringing home an M&M for my wife. Now, using the app, I have discovered you can make alterations, and they will add the hot fudge to the already disgusting McFlurry to make sort of a witch's brew of sugary death, which I'm very much looking forward to. All right. I have got to find a way to utilize the USB Atari joystick that I got from Hyperkin, because I bought this Hyperkin joystick like a month ago, and we talked about it on the air ad nauseum. Beautiful joystick, feels great, not getting used at all. And I'm playing games that could use it. I think maybe it's just because it happened right around the time that the portables were introduced, and that's what I'm doing a lot of right now, especially like if I'm going to play an Atari game or something like that. But there's got to be retro achievements for Atari games, and I can hook that thing up to RetroArch and play with it there. But Hyperkin did a really good job with that thing, and it kind of makes me want to get some of the other stuff they made. Particularly, they have one where they remade the Atari paddle, but they did it differently. So it has, I don't know how else to explain it. The original Atari paddle was that knob, basically like a doorknob. But this is more like a twisty thing. I don't know. I kind of want the paddle that they made, but I can't bring myself to get another piece of Atari hardware, emulator or otherwise, if I'm not using this joystick. Look, when people play the Atari, they sub the joystick out. It's the first thing to go. You pull out the Atari joystick and you replace it with like a Sega Genesis controller or something like that. At least people from my age bracket, unless you're playing it because you're old enough to have played the Atari when it came out. That's usually what people do, at least that I know. But the joystick I like, in particular, there was one game I played of Berserk, and this was probably, actually, you know what? I if I had my book in front of me, I wouldn't have to guess. But I had one game of Berserk. This is in mode 1, where Mr. Otto isn't there, the bouncing head that kills you. And in that game, I got like 42,000 points or something. Like, I was getting extra lives faster than I was losing them. So I just played until I ran out of time and couldn't play anymore. Yeah, it was a good time. I would like to recapture that magic. I dig that. I dig that. Those are good times. That's a video I've never made. That's always been on my production list, is that book. I have a little spiral bound notebook of scores that I started in 2008. And come on, there's that. Oh, hang on, here we go. It is time. Thanks, man, I appreciate it. Oh, 1, 2.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Have a good night. Yes! And sweet treats have arrived. What was I talking about? I don't know what I was talking about. It's gone. Oh, yeah. That book. I don't know. Scores. They're old. It's worth talking about at some point. I'll see you back in the studio. It's time to eat. Back again in the studio after that nonsense. It's time for the fail bag. Boys and girls, it's a small show. It's you here, it's me here, that's it. Let's take advantage of it and let's have a discussion. If you want to interact with the fail bag, jump on the Discord. I have a fail bag channel you can type in without having to worry about YouTube's comment filtering system. If you're feeling brave, the most convenient way is probably to drop something right there on YouTube, and that works too. Also, if you know me personally, feel free to shoot me an email. Just be clear about what I can and can't read on the air, just so that there's no mishaps. Here's one that came in last week, just as I was recording. Death Adder writes, with your woodworking and electronics everywhere, you could turn your man cave into a wacky bithead shed pretty easily. High praise. The thing is, Bithead has a degree in engineering, so with the same tools, yes, but I wouldn't know how to do half the stuff that he does. But that is kind of the point. This is sort of my Bithead shed, except that it's not a shed, so it's within the house, and because of that, I have to watch my sound level. Like, Bithead being in a shed enables him to scream at 3 a.m, which is one of the things that makes his channel great. if I came into my office at 3 and started screaming, my kids would wake up and be like, Dad, you need to shut up. So I got to watch for that. Let's see. Gaming Beast writes one. Oh, by the way, Death Adder, good to hear from you, brother. Keep doing that podcast, man. I've been hardcore into wrestling lately, so we should get the boys together and do a WrestleCast. Gaming Beast writes, I would recommend go to MAME's side-scrolling beat-em-ups. Off the top of my head, I would recommend Punisher, Captain Commando, AVP, Growl, Runark to you. Those are the fast and fun games, especially with the infinite coins you have at your disposal. You can also beat most of the arcade beat-em-ups within 20 minutes to an hour. It's nice if you don't have a lot of time for gaming. Might be fun to go back to Metroid. Recently beat Super Metroid again with RetroArch, enabling retro achievements. It was fun. Death Adder writes, The Punisher is an underrated gem. Can't believe CF doesn't like beat-em-ups. 20 minutes of beating up dudes is always a good time. Do I not like beat-em-ups? I just don't think I play them much. I'm kind of done with Double Dragon, at least the arcade ROMs, but I don't really have anything against beat-em-ups. Do I? Did I say that in the previous week? I don't know. Maybe it's time to up my dosage. Good to hear from you, both. I hope you're doing well. Hemrock leaves one on Monday Night Morrowind. He says, CF, yes, the old Fighters Guild, one of the comfiest places in video games. NPC, get out of here. What are you trying to do? Make me sick? Hilarious. Also hilarious at 2 minutes and 31 seconds. You have to use the mark spell to set your waypoint. Then you can use the recall spell to travel to said waypoint. Thanks for the vid. Hashtag Monday Night Morrowind. Yeah, man. I appreciate that because I did not know that you needed the mark spell. I thought I just, got the wrong spell. Or I don't know. I guess that is what happened. I got the wrong spell. I don't know. It's weird. The spell system in Morrowind is very weird. Metroid is difficult. Thanks for the video. That's on a recording I did of my first gameplay session returning to Metroid this past month. I did one of those for Patreon. Kaiser Cade writes, this is on the sound of the cicadas. By the way, the 17-year cicadas are out here on the east coast of the United States. So I made a quick 15-second video of what the sound was like. And that was the first day you could hear that. So since then, it's gotten twice as loud. Kaiser Cade writes, it's okay, CF. I normally hear that when I upload videos too. But Gaming Beast, that is crazy loud. Yes, it is. Death Adder, I believe you're about an 8-hour beeline north of my location. So we can probably get a lot. We probably get a lot of the same critters when it's a rainy night here. There is soothing sounds of about 10,000 frogs, all having mating season at once. That is pretty cool. Darklink93 writes, cicadas really do be like that. And yes, they do. Demez writes, the cool thing is they evolved a 17-year cycle because it's a prime number, so no other number of years divides into 17 years evenly. So they almost always come out on their own with no competition. Interesting. Oh, hang on. That was a real name drop. Tecmo Balls writes, I got way behind on TCR. I usually like to listen in order, but the game of the months I need to get current. Yeah, I do hope that we can rally together around some sort of game of the month thing. I'm trying to do it on my own. I'm sort of waffly about whether I want to keep maintaining my own or if I just want to run with the one they do over at Cartridge Club, because theirs is a little bit more organized. And if you sit down to play one of these games, there's more people contributing that you can kind of compare notes with. The only reason why I've opted to do my own is because that means that I can always pick a game that I can play. So, I don't know. Let me know what you think. We'll see how it goes. Good to hear from you, man. I'm glad you're still around. And remember that TCR is not homework. You can skip one. It does. It's fine. It's really okay. Desmond 101 writes, Mario Kart on the SNES was one of the most popular games in our house as kids. And it's the one we would always play co-op. It was a revelation at the time. I I think I'll actually stream the NES Metroid on Wednesday night, emulating it on the PS TV. Maybe make a map or something too. Good idea, man. How did that go? Let's see. Today is Wednesday. This is being recorded, so I'll have to check for that tonight. I hope to catch it because I've done my run with Metroid, at least as far as our notes are concerned. When I sit down to play it again, it's going to be post podcast, so I won't feel quite as much need to write down my thoughts and that sort of stuff. So that will make it prime for I can sit and watch you play through it, and I won't feel like it's being spoiled or something like that. Desmond, man, hope you're doing well. Thanks for checking in, brother. Death Adder writes, having listened and commented on 95% of all Tiger Claw radios over the last 5 years, I always fast forward to my comment first and then listen to the episode from the start. I'm not sure if it's an ego thing, an insecurity thing, or an autism thing, or a normal thing. Of the other 12 listeners, am I the only person to do this? That's a good question. I remember doing that back in the Gooch and the Douchebag days. I would leave a comment and then scrub the comment section when I first opened it up. I haven't done it since then, and that was 10 plus years ago. But technically, that means that you're not the only one who does that, because I do that too. Back to the comment, he says, I feel like this is something only me and Jeffrey Dahmer would do. A Jeffrey Dahmer type personality would do. Probably not something I would normally share, but sometimes you have 7 cups of coffee and type things out. Oh, that's fair enough. Oh man, I can't even tell you 1 ounce of the plot from 2001 Tomb Raider movie. I do remember a young and impressionable, yeah, we'll use that word, impressionable, 17-year-old Death Adder hung that poster for that movie in his bedroom. Lol. I was more of a fan of the Resident Evil 1 movie from 2002. I know, it's dumb, but so am I. I don't think I'll ever get into Metroid on the NES, but I'd like to thank you because of that challenge. I've been playing random NES games off of my NES Classic all week. A much-needed break from the vanilla ice cream that is modern gaming. Yeah, fair enough. What you been playing? Also, one final thing, as you know, I always have a tidal wave of comments to read. As I know you always have a tidal wave of comments to read. You've been posting your face a lot on YouTube. How do you have 0 gray hairs at this point? Am I the only Mondo Roundverse person who is starting to look like Nature Boy Ric Flair? Woo! Well, it's not accurate to say I have 0 gray hairs. There's just not many. I have them around the corners of my mouth where they're creeping into my mustache area. So they're coming, but they're just starting to peek out. As they say, when you get a gray hair, don't pluck it because 5 more will come to the funeral. Hemrock writes on the review for the Android box, thanks for the review. Is this thing more powerful than your Amberneck handheld? That is a really good question. Pound for pound, I'd have to go into the processors and check. I'm inclined to think no, because the harshest I've put either one of those devices through is playing PS1 games, and they can both do it. But the Android box has way more compatibility because I don't have access to all of the Google Play stuff with my Amberneck handheld. So there's that. I honestly would have to dig into the specs and check it out. I played a game, Fighter Maker. Fighter Maker is an old PS1, fighting game, but you can mess with the animations and stuff, create your own moves. It's really weird. I played that on the Amberneck, and to date, that is the only game on the Amberneck I've played that has given me any slowdown. It's Fighter Maker on the PS1. So I need to try Fighter Maker on the TV box to see how it goes. And that would be your answer based off of that test. But right now the answer is they're so close, I don't know. Eric Controller checks in and says, I know I don't say much, but I want to let you know I'm still getting my money's worth, and I listen to each episode of the gym. Keep on keeping on. Eric, man, that's awesome. I'm so glad. I hope you're doing well. And since you're at the gym right now, go, man, go. Go, go, go. I'm looking around to see if I have, inspirational music handy, but I don't. And I guess that's why I haven't been to the gym in a long time. Suffering writes, I just got the same thing. I got the same thing off of my $15 racing wheel video, which is from a couple of years ago. Gaming Beast 82 says, I think you missed my comment from last episode. I'm happy you had fun with the retro achievements. Hopefully we can try out NetPlay soon. I'll work on a list of multiplayer games that would be fun to try out. Question of the Beast. What genre would you like to have more, or at all, co-op campaigns? What genre should have more co-op campaigns? Okay, so I always talk about how, when it comes to consoles, I'm not much of a first-person shooter guy. The exception is multiplayer cooperative campaigns. The few times I've played a multiplayer co-op first-person shooter on any console is probably the most fun I've had playing a local multiplayer video game. I remember playing through the Halo games, the early Halo games. I remember my older brother was really into the first couple Borderlands games, and I remember playing those particularly. I wanted to say particularly 1, but that's not true. I remember playing 2 a lot as well. I don't know, those first couple of games, I remember playing them a lot on the PS3. It had split-screen multiplayer. And the UI was really mushed together. It wasn't perfect, but we managed to play it to the point where it felt fluid, and we were used to it, and it was awesome. It was an awesome experience. I miss that. So, more co-op. Did you specify it had to be a retro game? No, you know what? For more co-op, first-person shooters, split screen. That's what I want to see. As a matter of fact, I think Bethesda managed to do that when they re-released the classic Doom games recently, like in the last year or two. They polished up the multiplayer, which is great. My gosh, the one of the best re-releases of an old game in quite a long time. And I'm shocked it's come from Bethesda, is Bethesda's remakes of Doom and Doom 2. Because when you get those, you still have access to the old Doom and Doom 2. So you still can use source ports, because of course there's source ports. All of the crazy custom stuff that makes Doom great is still there. But the actual core game, they polished it up. They got working multiplayer for those of us out there who don't want to take the time to download a source port or read a how-to or something like that. Even though all that stuff's really easy, they did a great job. And I'm going to say it. And this is coming from somebody who's generally very, very critical of Bethesda and what they do, especially modern Bethesda. But gotta give credit where it's due. They did a good job with those Doom games. Finally, somebody checks in on the WordStar 4 1987 retro computing video, which is my #1 most watched video on Tiger Claw TV. They say WordStar works without DOSBox, I think. Yet, not if you're running a Windows 10 computer, and not if you're running WordStar 4 like in the video from 1987. That is specifically a DOS program. If you're running it and it's running, I don't know what operating system you're doing. Are you working Linux? Is that it? Is that maybe you could rig up Linux to do it some way like that? I don't know. Yeah, I'd be interested to see how that's working, but I'm more inclined to think you have some other version of WordStar. Or maybe you just have a shortcut set up to load WordStar with a native portable installation of DOSBox. So it seems like you just pop it open and there it is. Because you could rig that up with this that I have here in the video, but I don't know. That video came out years ago. It was definitely a low effort, retro show and tell type video. So I don't know. Yeah, I'm glad people still comment on it. And that, I believe, is the fail bag. That is it for Tiger Claw Radio for this week. Remember, in June, we're going to be playing either Final Fantasy or Super Mario Bros. 2 Japan. Stick with us to find out which. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube and head over to Discord so that you can yak it up and have a say in terms of what goes next. Also, the boys over at the Cartridge Club are going to be playing Cuphead, so keep your eyes peeled there as well. Whatever it is that you're doing this week, whether or not you have time to sit down and play any of those games or any games at all, I hope you're doing well. And I thank you for spending some time hanging out with us, because that's really what it's about. That's really the most important thing. Time is indeed the most valuable currency, and I value the time that you spend here. Thanks much, and take care of yourselves this week. I'll see you next Monday.